Hey guys, British leather today. Maybe I should have gotten a British brush. I have an Italian razor. And what's Rapira? Is that a Russian blade? So we're going international. Of course, Stirling is an American company. I have and I've tried the splash, the aftershave alcohol-based splash of this scent, and it's a little bit overwhelming. A little bit too intense, but that's sometimes how it goes. And so almost always the soaps are the same scent or similar, but a little bit more subdued. And so I think this might be one of those scents that I really like in the soap form, but maybe I get a little, it wears me out a little bit if I put it in an alcohol form in an intense way or average way. Maybe the alcohol splash would be okay if I just put a little bit on. The Lo Storto closed comb from Fatip is what we have today. If you are a regular watcher, then you'll remember that one from recent weeks. This is the 1438 from Semogue. It's a little guy, tiny guy. He's a representation of I think it's the extra grade hair from Semogue, and they did dye the bristles here, and he's got a great vintage look. And this grip actually does work. You've got this to kind of hold on to for kind of your front fingers, and then this little saddle here is what lets you really be able to keep a hold of it when things get slippery. Even with my big hands, it works. This guy's been soaking while I watch Perry Mason, so he is had plenty of soak time. And even though he is the scratchiest, according to Semogue, the one with the most, not scratchiest, but the most feel, not the softest, it still feels really comfy. We're going to use the Rapira Plat Lux in this Slant razor. When I was evaluating this razor a few weeks ago, somebody chimed in and said, hey, give the Platinum Lux a try. And I said, okay, because I have tried the Platinum Lux. But I couldn't find my blade. I don't know if it's one that I ordered, and this one came in. I just ordered it like a month ago. So this is how they come. Not a lot of them are still coming in these little paper wrappers, the secondary paper wrapper. Rapira. And then the Swedish Super Steel is the other kind of Rapira that I've tried. And I did try it with this razor, and it wasn't all that great. I don't really have high hopes for this one. This razor just seems to be a little picky about the blades, and I think I found a couple that were pretty good with it, but none that were just awesome, and a lot that would deliver pretty good shaves, but just not nearly as good as most other razors. Now let's check my alignment. This is the razor that has a little bit of an alignment issue with one of the pins, but it's almost in my favor. One of these guys, I think it's this one, is pointed out, almost perfectly out to the side. It's slanted just a little bit. And so what that does is it makes there be less play in the blade, but it almost centers it perfectly. So I don't think that's part of the problem, though. I think it's almost like the Feather ASD2. It reminds me of that, where it was really difficult to find blades that worked well in it because it was just so mild. Now this guy doesn't feel mild. I still feel the edge on my face. It's got great, because of the torsion that's on the blade, the rigidity along the edge is just wonderful. But for my skin at least, and I've heard this report from a few other folks as well, it's just not quite what shaves people closely for those folks. Now that's what's good news, right? Because let's say you want, I think there are lots of slants out there that are more aggressive. So if you want a slant that's more on the mild side, maybe this one would be perfect for you. If you have more sensitive skin, something like that. I believe most razors out there, most decent razors out there, do have an audience that would really benefit from them. You just have to match each other up, right? All right. I'm going to get my face wet. Oh yeah, just a wonderful scent. This is a used tub that I bought, and Stirling is a wonderful, wonderful soap base. The beef tallow, and this little 1438. Here's this 24 millimeter Stirling High Mountain White, and just look at how dwarfed. And if this one were wet, like after a shave, it would be even bigger. It would be open up even more. And so that's just kind of a comparison with how small this guy really is, because sometimes in the product photos, you don't really know the scale. All right. I did find a Semogue chart that listed like the handle height and the brush height, so that can give you a general idea if you have a ruler and things like that. But this guy, I really enjoy this little fella. He's got comfortable tips and just not prickly at all, not even from kind of day one, I think. Okay, I'm gonna get my face wet, and then we will start working on loading up the brush. All right. Now this guy does have a wooden handle underneath this enamel or whatever this is. So make sure when you soak it, you don't put any, let the water level come close to this ring right here. Keep it below. Otherwise it'll crack like mine did. But to me, it kind of gives it a little bit of character. So I'm not throwing this brush away and buying another one, All right, now this hasn't been used in a while. But let's give it a nice 25-second load, and it's going to run around to the 0 mark right there. Okay. Let's do a 25-second load and see how that does. Since it's an older soap, well, we definitely have enough moisture in the brush to cause all this bubbliness to come up. I'm probably going to have plenty of soap here. And there's 25. I like to let my Boar brushes soak for at least 3 minutes. If it's one that's being stubborn and it's very young, then I might soak it for an hour or two. Like my Stirling Boar brush, a very scrubby brush. I have some Omegas that were also quite stubborn. Yeah, the scent is pretty nice. Just kind of doing a little pre-wash here. And I'm going to rinse out, clean off the sides of the tub here. The one thing that this little guy when bowl lathering will do for you is get your fingers all up in the lather, because his handle is just so short, his bristles are so short that your fingers are going to get messy if you have a bowl like mine and you like to generate the kind of lather that I do. Kind of a muted scent here. I'll bet we will need more than the 2 teaspoons. So I'll just go ahead and put 2 in right away. One day of growth is what we're dealing with. So it'll be a normal, didn't take too long to get that lather looking nice. Great little travel brush. Since it's small, doesn't take too long to dry. It's cheap. So if it gets lost in luggage or something, So you're only out the time it took to break it in, and this one's only had 24 uses, so it got comfy, pretty quick. And so it doesn't take time to bring it back to a comfortable state. If I had taken an Omega that, took me 200 uses to get to be comfy, and something happened to it, I would be annoyed. Now look at all this firmness. Look at those tips. See the texture? That is a lot of firmness there, relatively speaking. So we need more water. Scrub any which way you want. Up, down, left, right. Circles one way, circles the other way. Get a little fuller and creamier as we have added. This brush is not going to hide a lot of water, so you're not going to get the situation like I had yesterday where I watered it down too thin and maybe there was some water in the brush that came out during the lathering process. Okay, so 4 teaspoons, and I'll bet I'll stop there. We'll just see how everything looks. So with my Boar brushes, this one is a part of what I've been calling my Boarathon. I don't do any kind of fancy break-in. I don't do that fridge soak method that seems to be circulating. I think that's a little too harsh. I want these tips to split in a very safe way. I like to have that split run down in the most natural and stable way possible. And I don't have any proof for this, but my guess is that a more mild type approach is going to be better at that than some super long soak and all that. Scrubbing it vigorously on a towel between long soaks. If I had a cheap brush, someday I might try that with a cheap brush. I think I did once and it didn't change anything. Yeah, I did try it. And it didn't really help the brush very much. Alright, well, take a look at that texture now. It's still holding up on its own. He's got more gloss now, but he doesn't have all the peaks and points. You see, look, the peaks are longer, they're more flexible, and so that is where I'm going to stop this guy. And this still may be a little too dry. I may have to add some more water during the shave, but let's just roll on. That is 4 teaspoons of water. Splash a little bit on my face here. Four teaspoons of water to make the lather. And this is a nice, comfy little brush. You do feel a little, it's a medium backbone. And the tips, they're not super soft yet, like I said. It's just, I think this is the 25th use. But it's really quite comfy. And the tips are just going to get softer and softer with more uses. Not scritchy at all, but kind of a scrubby feel. Especially with me having this goatee in the middle of my face, sometimes I enjoy having a brush that's smaller. This size brush may be a little problematic if you're a face latherer because the larger ones are going to hold more lather in them to try to last your whole shave, you know. Oh yeah. This lather is just luxurious. It could probably use a little bit of water, but it's nice. Creamy. Very good. The scent is not strong on this one. I bet I need to use it a couple more times before I get a true idea of the scent strength, because that top layer may have kind of released its potency a little bit. I may need to dig down a little bit. All right. Lo Storto with Rapira Plat Lux. So I had a viewer that recommended this blade with this razor, and obviously it works for him. Let's see how it does for me, because, you know, faces are very different. Well, very comfortable. I don't like the slants for the purposes of the lining up on the ears. You really have to be more conscious about it, but everywhere else it just doesn't really matter too much that it's a little tilted in terms of you doing the aiming and stuff. Very good. Most of my shaves with this razor have been like this, where they're comfortable. And the key is to get that comfort, but also get closeness. Bit of a trouble spot again there. And rinse. It's not starting off super efficient. I still feel a good bit of stubble, so it's not one of those that takes off, you know, 95% on the first shot. But it's comfortable. I bet it's going to be like most of the other blades I've tried with this razor, where it does a good comfortable job. Doesn't give you irritation, but it also doesn't get this maybe as close as you might want it to. The scent continues to be light. All right, cross grain now. As usual with Stirling, the slickness is just top notch. Razor is gliding easily. A few of the other blades I had with this, I felt like I needed to watch my technique, because I thought there might be some potential for some irritation or tenderness, but I'm not feeling that with this blade. So we'll see how the stubble feels on this rinse. Well, it is definitely reducing. Let's see if it reduces enough. Load up the brush again, pushing it down into the lather so that the center of the brush gets filled with lather. And I'm about to put on the third pass, and you can see I've still got probably another 3 passes left in there. So I didn't need to be quite so conservative, stingy with the loading. It's funny, this brush is so small that it benefits from a bowl lather, because you know you're going to be able to make enough lather for the shave. But the handle is not good for bowl lather. See, it's got it got all that soap around it. But as you can see, I'm not washing the handle off, and I'm still able to hold it well, control it well. Now because of the alignment issue with my particular model, there's one side that's got a little bit more exposure on one of the ends than the other. And for the first two passes, I've sensed that. It's kind of strange because in the previous shaves, it was harder to sense that. And this one, it seems to be pretty easy. And I am purposefully using the one with the slightly more exposure because I want to make sure I get the cutting that I want as close as I can get. Why not try that this time, you know? Try different angles. This razor is going to be one where a bad angle is going to give you a non-cutting situation. Which is good, I expect, because then at least it's not digging into you when it's not supposed to. I tell you, Stirling recently has released their stainless steel razor, and I am just dying for one. They had this handle when they first were showing pictures of it last year, maybe the year before, actually. They had some problems with their maker who was outsourcing stuff outside of the U.S., and it's important for Stirling that that's one of their priorities. You know, let's keep this labor in the United States. And so they just said, no, this was a stipulation, as far as I know this is true. This was a stipulation that it be American made, and you violated that, so you have to absorb the cost for that. And they went with another maker, but that means they had to start the whole process over again. Or maybe they stayed with the same maker. I don't think they did, but at any rate, they were able to have someone make it that kept it all in America. Bravo, you know? But see, Rod at Stirling loves those aggressive razors, and so he catered and created this razor for people who shave like him. And he had even the regular plate that comes with it. It's a typical three-piece design. The regular plate that comes with it, the base plate, he said is one that's more aggressive than a lot of people might use. He said if you're fine with shaving with your vintage Gillette at about 8 or 9, which is the highest setting, then you're kind of a candidate for this razor. And most of the time you will have to ride the cap to have that sharper blade angle, narrower blade angle to the skin. He said it's not for the faint of heart, but he includes, he makes available another base plate that's even more aggressive, high aggression head, and there's no way I'd want that, of course, but someday, maybe if I find it on the used market or something, because you know what? The handle that he showed at first, that I mentioned earlier, had a long, narrow kind of gooseneck where there was not really any grippiness, and then the cool knurling and stuff was down on the bottom half. Well, where do I hold my razors? I hold it up here, and that's exactly the wrong place based on that first design that he put out. Well, I don't know if other people kind of voiced an issue as well as I may have, but and I didn't make a big deal out of it. I might have mentioned it when the first time I saw that picture. I might have said something just like, well, where I hold the razor, there's no grip right there, so that one's not a preference for me. I thought it kind of looked funny too, because it's kind of a chunky head at the top, and so then to have this narrow gooseneck for half the razor, it's a longer handle than this one, but for about half of it, it's kind of narrow, and then it expands out kind of at the bottom. That just kind of looked weird to me. But if you hold your razor at the end, then obviously you're in good shape. Well, he made two other handles to go with that as a choice that you have, and I like both of those quite a bit. One of them probably more than the other, and so I think they're just gorgeous. Who knows? Maybe the handle is the reason I want to get that razor. But maybe I can have a friend that might loan it to me with that regular head, just to try it out and see. Um, uh, but there may be enough people on the used market to where I can sell it. You know, who knows? But I am holding myself back for now. All right. I've let my face kind of sit here for a little bit. I have felt a little bit of tenderness in a couple of places. Let me get a good rinse in, and I might, after I inspect this area, I might hit it again. Pretty much like the other blades that I've tried with this razor, I did end up with several hairs in this area that are have a little bit of length on them, just a tiny bit. It's not really a big deal. If this was my razor and I used it regularly and I went to work, I don't think anybody would be remarking about, you know, me being not properly shaven at all. I just don't think it's a big deal. It's a very close shave, but just a little bit of length on some of those tips. And it's also because I don't go against the grain. It irritates my skin if I go against the grain right here. But let us see what happens if I take that mild side that has less exposure of this razor and kind of work on that area with it. Interesting. It's not giving me a lot of scent to work on. It's neat. It's pleasant. I do enjoy it. And it is kind of part of the shave. Okay, let's look for the side. I think this might be the milder side. It's really hard because it's curled. Yeah, this is the milder side. So let's come at it from here up this way and maybe even take more of a pass at it that has a little bit more of an against the grain nature. Just see what happens. Chin up and away. For me, this seems to be pretty good. A little bit of skin stretching. You don't want to overstretch though. That's really pretty comfy going maybe 45 degrees against the grain. I don't want to go too far though. That was really pretty good. What this could be doing is giving me kind of an advantage with having kind of two sides to the razor. A mild side and then a not as mild, but probably not a medium side, kind of a mild and even more mild sides. Perhaps that's a good way to say it. All right, I'm just curious as to whether that really helped me out. I'm going to rinse. I can't believe that didn't do as good as I thought. I really expected to see some pretty well cut hairs there, and I bet I got a few more, but not all that noticeable. Again, it's still a nice shave. Nobody's going to comment about it unless they're just standing right next to me, peering at this area of my neck and being all judgmental. All right. So, enjoyed the British leather. I need to use it again just to see if more of the scent comes out. I think I do like it as a soap, but there's not a lot of depth to it due to the lower strength at this point. So we used 4 teaspoons and 20 seconds of loading to get the mix today, and I think it was perfect. It was very slick. The razor here just had tremendous glide, easy glide, nice protection. I do have a little bit of tenderness on my neck, but it's one of those, just a little bit. It'll be gone soon. Oh, hey, let's pick a post shave. I'm still working on using up my sandalwood balm from Lathering wood from a few years ago before it goes rancid. So let's go ahead and use that. I think the sandalwood is going to go with this musky, leathery scent. So I kind of wish the British leather were a little bit more intense, you know, a little bit more so that I could kind of smell its characteristics and stuff. Whereas the aftershave, like I told you, was very bold. This is the opposite. But like I said, we will use it again and see if we dig down in, if we can get some stronger scents. Sometimes that happens. All right, Lathered wood, thank you for the nice kind of a mellow, woody type scent. To me, it seems very, you know, pretty authentic with like a little bit of creaminess to it. I like it. So the Rapira Plat Lux, I don't know that it differed too much from the Swedish Super Steel that is from the same Rapira company. It may have done a little better, but it wasn't the magic blade, at least for my skin, in this particular razor. So I'll keep looking out every once in a while, but this razor may just be one that is not a great match to my skin, and that's just the way it goes sometimes. Even when it's a brand that I really do enjoy, the Fatips, the closed comb Gentile, and the Grande, which is the open comb, are just wonderful. They both give me closer shaves than this one, and more comfortable ones too. So they're clearly the winners. And this is what this little guy looks like after a good towel stropping. So we can compare him now after the fact. He's looking a little bit more like his bigger badger brother. Tell you what, this guy's much easier to clean than this one. Just cleans up quick because of all the extra room between the bristles. It's just not that dense. But it's got a great face feel, nice and scrubby, but soft but scrubby. He's a little surprised. I didn't think I would enjoy him as much as I do. Well, this blade is going to be my Rapira Plat Lux Marathon blade, and it'll probably take me a while before I really start putting some uses on it, but why not start at some point, right? I put a little 3 dots there just to kind of be a signature. I'm going to get an engraver, a little etcher thing, you know, like people use to mark their property so it doesn't get stolen and not returned to them. And I marked this with an M. And so this was the first use of this one. It seems like a pretty good general purpose blade. It was pretty cheap when it was suggested that I try that blade and I couldn't find my own. I got online to see, because it is a blade that certain pockets of the shaving community are big fans of. And I thought, you know what, let's take a look at it. And it was just $10 for 100. It's a great price. So I would definitely put it in the budget blade category. And I love the fact that if you look, many times you can find a budget blade that works really well for you. Just because it's expensive doesn't mean it's best. In the blade, and really kind of in the razor sphere of influence as well. But we'll try that in some more razors and see how he does. But since it was just $10, I went ahead and ordered 100. I got a zillion blades. I didn't need another 100, but I like to, if I'm sending something to somebody, I like to throw in a tuck of blades, you know, and so I went ahead and got them. If it's $10, I don't mind every once in a while or every few months, you know, picking another type of blade and ordering a bunch of them, you know. And someday if I get enough, I can offer my own samplers and kind of make the money back, you know what I mean? All right. There we go. We'll keep using that blade at some point down the road. What's coming up in the future? I'm not quite sure. One of the things that I was doing was trying to find a good blade for that 46 Wolfman WR1 that I have. And so I may keep going with that. I have that every day with the new handle that I have shown you once, and I'm sure I'll be using that in the near future as well. And then I've also got the single edge that I'm curious about how many uses I can get on that Gem PTFE blade. So there's two things along that are going to be coming along the line soon in the near future. So there we go. I think that's it. Very cool. It's a very enjoyable shave. I love that little brush. He's really neat, and I think I even saw one of the tips around the edge had actually split halfway down the bristle. It was nuts. It's really neat. So it'll be fun to watch him grow. Smelling good with the sandalwood around me. It definitely did match nicely with the English leather. So happy with that. And I don't have a lot of kind of pure sandalwood type balms. Stirling sandalwood balm is very, very creamy and kind of sweet. Not my preference. Otherwise, I'd definitely be ordering some of that. I wonder, maybe I would find another balm that's kind of a dedicated, straightforward sandalwood, you know, to always have one of those on hand. I do really enjoy it. And I believe we've kind of covered the highlights of what we did today. And tried out the Rapira. And I do expect that the blade would smooth out a little bit many times after the first use. They do. So I'll look forward to that happening. And I think we're good. All right, guys. The only bad news is I did not yet find a blade that makes the Lo Storto slant closed comb impress me. That's the way it goes. All right, guys. Take care. I sure hope there's something in this video that helps you out. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Good night.